Welcome to this Fabricville tutorial. Today I will demonstrate how to make a Halloween dress from the Birder Style 2463 pattern. I made a witch dress, but depending on the fabrics and colors you will use, it could be a pretty princess or fairy dress. To make this dress we'll need the pattern, some pins, a chalk, scissors, a 60 cm zipper, 10 hooks, some ribbon, a piece of cord, some lining, fabrics of 2 colors, and assorted thread. To start, I pin the pieces of the pattern onto the fabric respecting the grain line. I'm going to cut in black velvet the narrow sleeve pieces, the lower sleeves, the overskirt, the center front and the back of the bodice, and in magenta velvet the upper and lower sleeves, the side fronts of the bodice, and the underskirt. I also cut the bodice pieces in lining fabric. Before removing the pattern paper from the fabric, I transfer the markings that will be useful to assemble the dress. To start, I lay the pieces of lining on the wrong side of the bodice pieces. I pin, baste the pieces together and then serge. I'm going to use them as one layer of fabric. I pin and stitch the back darts and I press them toward the center. I lay the side fronts on the center front. I stitch, then I press the seams open. Now I lay the back piece to the right sides facing, and I'm going to stitch the side seams, the shoulder seams, and baste the center back before pressing the seams open. I've transferred from the pattern the markings of the front lacing. I'm going to pin the ribbon on the center front as marked and along the front seam. Now I stitch. I will stitch the hooks on each of the markings. I cut a bias band in black velvet. I fold it in half lengthwise and I press. I baste it to the neck edge, aligning with both edges. I stitch. I trim the allowances. I turn it to the inside and I press. I pin the ribbon to the neck edge and I stitch, catching the bias tape as well. I'm going now to make the sleeves. For the upper sleeve, I have 1 magenta piece and 4 black narrow pieces. I'm going to trim the allowances to 7 mm. Serge, press and stitch them. I'm going to pin these pieces on the upper sleeve piece. I baste the edges together and serge the side edges. I'm going to stitch 2 basting seams on the sleeve cap and on the lower edge as well. These lines will allow me to create gathers. Now I fold the sleeve right side inside and I stitch the lateral seam. Then I press the seam open. The lower sleeves are lined with fabric, so I have 2 pieces of sleeve. I fold them right side inside and I stitch the lateral seams. And I press the seams open. I pass one sleeve into the other, right sides facing. I match the lateral seams and I'm going to stitch the lower edges together. I snip the corners at angles, then I turn the sleeves right side out. I baste together the upper edges and I press the lower edge. To finish the sleeve, I stitch the ribbon to the lower edge. I can now pin the upper sleeve to the lower sleeve. I pull the gathering thread so that the edges are equal. I pin, stitch, then serge. Now I'm going to stitch the sleeve to the bodice. I start by pulling the basting threads to gather the sleeve cap. Then I stitch the sleeve to the armholes, matching the cap notch, the shoulder seam and the side seams. I pin before stitching and serging. To make the skirt, I first serge the lateral edges of each of the 6 pieces. I pin the center back of the skirt. I'm going to stitch from the bottom to the notch, then only baste from the notch to the waistline. Then I lay the fronts on the back before stitching and pressing the seams open. I serge the lower edge of the skirt, press the hem, pin it, then stitch. Then I fold the front opening facing, press, then I hand stitch the facing along the openings. To make the underskirt, I stitch the center back, the sides and the center front. Like I did for the overskirt, I baste the back from the notch to the top. I press the seams open and stitch the hem. I lay the underskirt turned right side out on the wrong side of the overskirt, and I fold the overskirt fronts over the underskirt. Now I pull the skirt turned to the right side into the bodice, which is turned to the wrong side. I pin the upper edges together, matching seams and centers. Now I remove the basting threads from the center back of the bodice and the skirts. I'm going to place the zipper under the center back edges. I baste, and I stitch around the zipper with the zipper presser foot. Last step, I lace the cord through the hooks on the center front, and I tie a bow on the waist. And our dress is finished. Happy Halloween, and thanks for watching.